Here in the European Parliament today, we marked European Day of Victims of Terrorism. It was, of course, a poignant occasion for me, representing Northern Ireland, in view of the fact that in the last few days we have sadly and tragically seen three more added to the roll of victims of terrorism in Northern Ireland. The loss of two of our British soldiers and one of our policemen at the hand of IRA terrorism is a very sobering and a very difficult thing to bear. And when we met here today, one of the points that struck me was that the emphasis and the focus quite correctly was upon the innocent victims of terrorism. There was no equivocation. There was no attempt to try to suggest that those who perpetrate terrorism are themselves victims in some crazy fashion. No, there was a direct focus and totally unadulterated acceptance that there are perpetrators of terrorism and there are victims of terrorism. And that is how it should be. And of course that brings home to me just how hideous, how obscene is the definition of victim that we have in Northern Ireland, where anyone who is affected by any conflict-related incident is on an equal basis as a victim, meaning that the terrorist who injures himself or kills himself in the planting of a bomb is put on the same plane, the same level as those he deliberately and consciously sets out to murder. That, of course, is utterly obnoxious and utterly wrong. And it's a definition which was brought in under direct rule. Now, there were those that told us that they were going into government, of course, to right the wrongs of direct rule. Well, I can't think of a greater wrong than that which equates perpetrator with victim, murderer with murdered, butchered with butcher. And that is so obnoxious that one would have thought, particularly from those who tell us that they control Stormont, that would have been the first thing they would have changed. But of course they've floundered around with this issue because the system that they've agreed, the Belfast Agreement system of devolution that they've agreed, hands an irreversible veto to the Nationalist Republican members of the Assembly, in that their consent is required to make that change. And so that change continues to languish as unmade. And that is appalling. But certainly the events here today have steeled my determination to sustain and keep up and to strengthen my campaign to get that hideous definition reviewed and changed. And frankly, a devolution which cannot deliver justice to victims, which cannot deliver a proper definition of victim, is a devolution, sadly, in hock to terrorism. That is something that has to change.